Jardines del Humaya, the cemetery outside Culiacán with lavish mausoleums for influential cartel members, has a new resident. Eliseo Imperial Castro, known as Cheyo Antrax, was tragically taken down in his car on a street south of Culiacán. Armed civilians stopped him and opened fire on his vehicle. El Cheyo was a cousin and bodyguard of Ismael Zambada Imperial, aka El Mayito Gordo, until his arrest in 2014. Alongside Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa, aka El Chino Antrax, El Cheyo established the fearsome squad Los Antrax and became one of the most trusted lieutenants of Ismael El Mayo Zambada. But who wanted him gone? A week later, also in Culiacán, local businessman and social media influencer Rafael Lascano Rosales, known as Peinado, was also taken down at his luxury car dealership, Mega Autos El Peinado. He flaunted a life of luxury and travel, posing as a successful businessman. Yet, in the underworld, it was no secret that he was a top financial operator for El Chino Antrax and the Zambada family. Who wanted Peinado gone? Is there a connection to the attack on El Cheyo Antrax? We traveled to Culiacán, Sinaloa, to find the truth. In this episode of Illicit Investigations, we dive into the story behind the assassination of El Cheyo Antrax in Culiacán. We expose the connection to the attack on Peinado, a key money launderer for the Sinaloa Cartel, and reveal if El Cheyo was indeed the last of the Antrax. Stay tuned. The events happened shortly after 2 p.m. on May 30th, 2024, on Mexico's 15 International Highway, near Jardines del Humaya Cemetery. Eliseo Imperial Castro was traveling in a white Chevrolet Colorado truck when an armed group intercepted and attacked him with firearms. The body of the 40-year-old drug trafficker was left inside the vehicle, where weapons and used cartridges were found. The attack attracted media attention because he was the nephew of one of Mexico's most notorious drug traffickers, Ismael El Mayo Zambada. Additionally, he was the last leader in Sinaloa of Los Antrax, the ruthless armed wing that provided security for the Zambada family. El Cheyo Antrax had a rivalry with Los Chapitos. They were enemies within the Sinaloa Cartel. Some mild confrontations occurred between Los Antrax and Los Chapitos, but a full-scale war among sicarios never escalated. The latest fights for territorial control and routes to border towns in Baja California heated up the armed disputes between the sicarios of the Zambada family, led by El Cheyo, and the Chapitos. While El Cheyo worked with Rene Arzate Garcia, aka La Rana, to cross drug shipments to California through Tijuana and Mexicali, Los Chapitos sent hundreds of sicarios to stake a claim in these ports of entry to the U.S. But our sources in Culiacán gave us a better idea of who wanted El Cheyo down. Even though getting rid of El Cheyo would be a relief for Ivan Archivaldo Guzman, it would cause a huge dispute with the Zambada family, and he is not currently in a position to start a war of such magnitude. El Cheyo Antrax is the cousin of Ismael Zambada Imperial, or El Mayito Gordo, who has been living freely in Southern California since 2022 after securing a cooperation deal with the U.S. government. His father was Eliseo Imperial Lopez, a mid-level drug trafficker and brother of Margarita Imperial, the second wife of Ismael El Mayo Zambada, and mother of El Mayito Gordo. El Cheyo Antrax and El Mayito Gordo grew up together, and El Cheyo became his bodyguard in his early 20s. They loved to party together at private events on their ranches in Sinaloa. Along with Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa, they created Los Antrax in 2008, during a war between former drug trafficking allies, the Sinaloa Cartel and the Beltran Leyva Cartel. It was a particularly violent group, led by El Chino Antrax, until his arrest in Amsterdam in December 2013. The radio code of El Cheyo was 02. In mid-2014, he was charged with drug trafficking and money laundering by a court in the Southern District of California. In 2016, the OFAC added him to its list of foreign drug traffickers, citing his role in assisting, supporting, and providing services to El Mayo. El Cheyo was the last leader of Los Antrax in Sinaloa. However, Rafael Guadalupe Felix Nunez, known as El Changuito Antrax, now leads the strongest faction of the Sinaloa Cartel in Manzanillo, Colima. El Mayo Zambada trusted Cheyo Antrax blindly because he was part of his family, and always showed loyalty and strong character to lead sicarios and conquer new territories. After 2014, Cheyo was sent by Mayo to difficult states like Veracruz, Chiapas, and Zacatecas to fight against rival cartels like the CJNG and the Zetas. Later on, he was given the maritime routes from Sinaloa to Tijuana to work in alliance with other cartel lieutenants, such as Rene Arzate, aka La Rana, to smuggle drugs into the U.S. Cheyo was aggressive, effective, and highly respected among his group of hitmen. But since 2022, when Mayo Zambada began suffering from deteriorating health and started delegating his command to his son, Ismael Zambada Siqueiros, aka El Mayito Flaco, things started to change. El Mayito Flaco began investigating drug operations led by Cheyo after hearing rumors from their Colombian associates that Cheyo, in partnership with Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa, the younger brother of Chino Antrax, were stealing drug shipments to resell in Tijuana. El Mayito Flaco discovered that Cheyo, supposedly acting on his behalf, had closed million-dollar drug deals with Colombian suppliers without paying them, claiming that the shipments were seized while reselling them in Tijuana. El Mayito Flaco reported his findings to his father, and they agreed to take down Cheyo. It was El Mayito Flaco who ultimately used his rifle against him and finished the job. 38-year-old Rafael Lascano Rosales was a successful businessman in Culiacán. He owned one of the best selections of exotic cars for sale in Sinaloa. On social media, he flaunted his friendship with artists like Edwin Caz of Grupo Firme. Also known as Peinadito, he was the owner of the car dealership Mega Autos El Peinado. His father was a drug dealer in the 80s and left him some money to start a business. His connection to Sinaloa's underworld helped him develop friendships with key figures like Chino Antrax. Around 2009, Lascano Rosales became a financial operator for Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa and subsequently for the Zambada family. He was also a close friend of Cheyo Antrax. His business and wealth flourished, and since he was not targeted by any U.S. federal agency, he traveled freely to California and Las Vegas. But eventually, during one of his trips to the U.S., DEA agents contacted him to turn him into an informant. Otherwise, he would go to prison for money laundering. He accepted and turned into a snitch. Mayo Zambada knew this information, but decided to leave him alone and instead began cutting financial ties with him. However, El Mayito Flaco discovered that Lascano Rosales was assisting Cheyo Antrax and Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa in moving the proceeds from the stolen drug shipments. It was the perfect reason for El Mayito Flaco to discard Lascano Rosales, and his father agreed. This is Illicit Investigations. Subscribe now to our channel to go beyond the headlines.